We tend to think of the laws of physics as these, totally unbreakable rules. Gravity, speed of light.
Absolutely. And for over a century, biology had one just like that, the Abbe diffraction limit.
Right,
Yeah.
which basically said you cannot use a light microscope to see anything smaller than about 200 nanometers, period.
It was treated as a fundamental wall. If you wanted to see the details on a virus, forget it. The physics of light just wouldn't let you.
Well, today's deep dive is about the paper that basically walked right through that wall. It turns out it wasn't a wall at all.
It was more like a traffic jam.
Exactly. And the authors realized you can beat the jam if you just make the individual cars blink on and off.
That's a perfect analogy. The real problem isn't just the wavelength of light. It's that all of your fluorescent tags, all the little glowing markers you put on a cell, are all lit up at the same time.
So it's just a big swarm of light. Their glows all overlap, and you just get one big blurry mess.
Precisely. But what these researchers figured out was, well, what if you could turn on just one of those molecules at a time?
Then you wouldn't have any overlap.
You'd have a single, isolated spot of light. And if it's all by itself, you can find its exact center with incredible precision.
Okay, I get the concept. You're like a bouncer, only letting one molecule's light in at a time. But how do you actually do that? Chemically, I mean.
That is the core trick. They used a very clever pair of dyes, C5 and C5.
Okay.
So you hit the C5 dye with the red laser. It glows, which is what you want, but then it gets pushed into a temporary dark state. It just switches off.
You zap it, it flashes, then it goes to sleep.
Basically, yes. But here's the brilliant part. They can wake it back up. A little pulse of a green laser brings the molecule back to its fluorescent state.
Ah, so you've got an on-off switch.
Exactly. And by balancing the red and green lasers, they can make sure that in any single snapshot from the camera, only a tiny random fraction of molecules are on.
So you get this field of sparse, twinkling lights, no overlap. But, I'm looking at their raw data here in Figure 2, and it looks like a mess, just scattered noise.
The switch worked. But what you're seeing there is the great enemy of all nanotechnology, drift.
Drift.
At this scale, the microscope stage itself is moving. Tiny vibrations, thermal expansion, anything. We're talking movements you couldn't possibly feel. But they're huge compared to a molecule.
So the table vibrating just a little bit is enough to scramble everything.
Much less than that. But they realized this was critical. Once they mathematically corrected for that drift, the precision just snapped into place.
And how precise are we talking?
The uncertainty of a single molecule's position dropped to just 8 nanometers.
Wow. Okay, that brings up a huge question for me and for you listening. If you have thousands of these frames, each with a few sparse blinking lights, how do you actually get a picture?
Right.
If you just stack all those photos on top of each other, wouldn't you just end up with the same blurry blob you started with?
You absolutely would. And that's because this technique, STORM, isn't really photography. It's applied statistics.
What do you mean?
You don't actually keep the glow from the image. For every single flash of light, the computer fits a curve to it to find the exact mathematical center. It plots that single center point as a dot, and then it throws the rest of the image away.
Whoa, so we're not even looking at a photograph of a cell. We're looking at a probability map, a connect-the-dots picture.
Exactly. It's a pointillist painting built one dot at a time. They shifted the problem from optics to data analysis.
And the results, look at Figure 3. They tested it on DNA strands, like a tiny ruler with markers spaced 46 nanometers apart.
Right. To a normal microscope, that gap is invisible. It's one continuous blob of light.
But with STORM,
You see 2 distinct, separate clusters of dots. And when they measured the distance, it came out to 41 nanometers.
that is shockingly close to the real thing.
It gets even better. Look at the image of that circular piece of DNA. In the standard microscope view, it looks like a blurry, out-of-focus tire.
You can't even really tell it's a ring.
But in the STORM image, it's a sharp, clean loop. You can actually see the empty space in the middle. The resolution they achieved was about 20 nanometers.
And they did this with a relatively simple microscope setup, right? That's the other big deal here.
That's the democratization part. Other super-resolution methods at the time needed these huge, complex, high-power lasers. STORM worked on a standard scope with simple, low-power lasers.
It basically made nanotechnology accessible to a normal biology lab.
It did.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. What are the 3 big takeaways here?
First, the diffraction limit isn't a hard wall, it's an overlap problem. If you make molecules blink, you solve the overlap and break the limit.
Second, at this tiny scale, stability is everything. Without correcting for mechanical drift, none of this works.
And third, it's about seeing what was invisible. The method lets us resolve biological structures, like the spacing on a DNA strand, that were literally impossible to see with light before.
Is there a catch? It sounds too good to be true.
There is one. It's not a live video.
Yeah.
Because you have to collect thousands of frames to build that final point list map, it takes time. You can't really capture fast-moving things inside a cell.
Still, it really makes you wonder what other hard physical limits out there are really just data processing problems, waiting for the right clever trick.
That's the big question, isn't it?
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.
Welcome to the Everyday Journal Club. I'm Hope, a biologist with 15 years of research experience, now fortunate to be working in a Nobel Prize-winning lab. This channel has three main goals. 1. To help you stay effortlessly updated on the latest scientific breakthroughs. No paywalls, no jargon overload. 2. To build a supportive community where we can exchange the most valuable experience-based research advice. 3. To share valuable strategies and concrete examples on how to achieve meaningful scientific breakthroughs. Once we reach 1,000 subscribers, I'll begin releasing content focused on the third goal. Let's go! Let's make great science together.